Hey guys, what's going on? It's Chamber here, and today we'll be figuring out if there really is a limit to overclocking and how much you should overclock. Now, I got this video idea because, as a lot of people may or may not know, I work on a lot of people's PCs. That's how I'm able to afford a lot of the content for this channel. If you're interested in getting your PC overclocked, hit the link below in the description. But what I was hearing a lot of people saying was, oh man, Chamber, you have 5.2 gigahertz on your CPU. Man, I really wish that I could hit that. If I could hit that, I have the same FPS as you. And I'd always respond, you don't need to overclock this far. There's no need to go this far. Trust me, what a better thing would do is just keeping those voltage and that temperature down. And they're always like, I don't know. And then they'd like think, oh, I'm getting significantly lower FPS, when really they were getting very similar FPS. So I thought, let's see how far really you should overclock. So games tested for this video were Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, Rift Breaker, and Spider-Man. Oh, and obviously Warzone 2, very popular game. I chose Spider-Man because it is a DX12 ray tracing benchmark. So I ran the maxed out settings in this game just to see what does ray tracing do. Now, interesting thing, even though this is a ray tracing and what you would think is be a really GPU bound title, this is a very heavy CPU bound title. Fortnite, CPU bound, as a lot of people know. Rainbow Six, kind of depends, CPU, GPU. And then Rift Breaker, I ran the CPU test. And then I also ran Time Spy Extreme and Firestrike Ultra, which are 4K DX11 for Firestrike, DX12 for Time Spy, GPU bound titles or benchmarks. And we compared between two OCs. Now, first of all, the specs I was running were my 12700K. I was running hyperthreading and E-cores off on these, so 8 cores, 8 threads, 2x8 of my single rank DDR4 BDI, which is very good BDI, so I was able to tune it pretty far, and then my 4090 gigabyte gaming OC. So for the max OC, I was running 5.2 gigahertz on the core, 4.9 gigahertz on the ring. RAM speed was 4000 CL15, fully tuned, just as tight as I could get those, at about 1.6 volts VDIM, and then 1.35 system agent and VDDQ. For the 4090, I was running 3060 megahertz on the core at 1.1 volts and plus 1750 megahertz on the VRAM offset. So for the point of scaling, I was running 5.1 gigahertz on the CPU and 4.8 gigahertz on the ring, so subtract 100 megahertz from both. For the RAM, I was running 3733 CL15, which was with my plug-in play timings. And then for the RTX 4090, I was running 2805 megahertz, which is about what these boost to typically in games stock, at 970 millivolts core. So a significantly lower voltage over, it was 130 millivolts less, and plus 1500 on the VRAM. But now let's get right into the results. Starting off with Time Spy Extreme. Once again, this is a 4K DirectX 12 benchmark, and you are getting 5.92% more performance with a max OC versus a scaling. Now, one thing about this benchmark, and the same thing with Firestrike Ultra coming up, these scale with anything you throw it at them. So if it is faster, it will show up faster in these benchmarks. As you can see, a lot of that score actually does come from the graphics score in this, once again, because it is in 4K. CPU score does not increase as much, so think about that. You see, hey, you might want to definitely look at overclocking your GPU if you're running a 4K game. Once again, Firestrike Ultra 4K DirectX 11, and as you can see, yep, this is definitely all just coming from the graphics score. You're getting another almost 7,000 more points in the graphics score, which is insane. You're getting a little bit more in physics and a good more in the combined. But this is definitely just coming from graphics. So if you're running a high refresh rate, high resolution, maxed out settings game, definitely want to overclock your GPU a little bit more. CPU, as you can tell, isn't really affected by these. Now on to Rift Breaker. This is at 1440p, just so everyone's knowing. All game results are in 1440p because that was my monitor, and we're keeping these modern. Plus 2% in the average FPS, plus 6% in the low 1%, and plus 5% for the max FPS. Is that a lot? Yes. Will you notice the difference between 202 and 208 FPS? No. One thing I would say, the lows, those increasing more is definitely a bigger deal, and that's something you will notice. One thing also about Rift Breaker is that this game loves stability, so as things increase more, typically your FPS will improve, so you can tell these are stable just by the improvement in FPS there. Rainbow Six Siege. So, as you can tell, this is a very interesting thing. One thing you can see, the FPS results in average are only about 12 different, but look, in the scaling one, the minimum FPS is significantly higher. The max is not as high, but hey, you're getting significantly more consistent FPS there. You also have lower GPU load, which just shows that the CPU being slower is making the GPU not work as hard. But if I were you in this game, I'd definitely run a scaling, point of scaling, run until you get to a certain voltage and be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm fine with that. You don't have to tune your PC to the max here, and it actually could show regression. Here we have the Spider-Man remastered FPS, and as you can see, the max OC definitely does increase the average FPS. It increases the 1%. 0.1% are a little bit higher, but that is pretty much margin of error, I would call there. It's too close to call there. So as you can see, the max OC does increase. Now, one thing, I was running hyper-threading off and E-cores off with this. This game loves to scale with cores and threads. The ray tracing in this game really does cause the CPU to actually have to render, and I was hitting 100% CPU usage, pulling insane power with both of these, but the max one was obviously a lot more power. So is it worth the 8 more FPS? Actually, yes, in Spider-Man, in a game where if you're flying around, there's a lot of high action, you definitely want that high FPS. Now on to Fortnite, and this is the game that really was interesting to me and the one that I found the most interesting. As you can see, the average FPS is significantly higher on the max OC versus the point of scaling. But look at those 1% and 0.1% on the point of scaling. They are both significantly higher than the max OC. Now, what is causing this? This is called performance regression. You're pushing it harder and you're getting worse results. Now, I have to believe that this is through the ring showing up that even though it is stable in games, you don't get always the highest performance benefits and you actually get worse results, even if it's fully stable in something like Y-Cruncher. So definitely be careful. Test your OCs, even if they are stable in your stress test. Test once again in your games. But now on to Warzone. Here we have Modern Warfare 2, and this game once again scales with everything you throw at it. So as long as it is stable, you will be getting more FPS with the max OC. Will you be noticing the average FPS? Yes, but the lows are actually not that different. So if you're okay with not having your FPS counter show up as high, but you want your lows in game to still feel good, feel free to go ahead with a point of scaling OC, and don't worry about a max OC in this game. So what have we learned here? We've learned that sometimes going all out is not actually the best thing to do. Now, I was running 100 millivolts less on the CPU, getting significantly less power draw with my point of scaling OC versus my max OC. And even in some games, such as Fortnite and then Rainbow Six Siege, you were noticing performance regression. That can definitely be an issue and something that you don't want to happen. Maybe a way to bypass this would just have been to, oh, hey, let's run 48 ring instead of 49 with 5.2 gigahertz. Then you might see the benefits of running 5.2 gigahertz, but trying to max it out and just make sure it is stable, it's not always the best. So definitely if you're overclocking, don't feel free like you need to get the max percent in tune every single timing, get fully the max clock speed at everything, because at times it could actually be worse. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button down below, subscribe if you guys are new. If you also want to connect and join the community, hit the link down below, join the Discord. You can now also directly support me through Discord. You can get access to some VIP channels. You also get access to DM access through me, so you can ask me questions directly. I have some brand new things coming for my Discord subscribers, but I'll see you guys later in the next one. Peace.